You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Welcome to the Dressage Today podcast, hosted by Stephany Fish Crossman and Aviva Nebesky.
So today is kind of an exciting day. I have been doing the Dressage Today podcast with Stephany Ruff for about, 3 years now. And Stephany has moved on to different things. And just to keep everybody confused, my new co-host is Stephany Fish Crossman. So I have two Stephany's, different spellings, different people. But welcome, Stephany. I'm so excited to be co-hosting with you. Just to let our listeners know, I initially met you because we interviewed you.
Yes.
And I just love talking to you so much that I brought Stephany up to do a clinic here. And we've been friends ever since. And this is just a wonderful opportunity for me to continue my relationship with you. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you recently, because I know you have some exciting news.
Sure. Well, thank you for being here with me. I'm really excited about this opportunity. And when I was thinking about this earlier today, I was just grinning like, ooh, I get to talk to Aviva again. This is wonderful.
Well, it'd be so wonderful when you have to do it every month, but thank you.
We'll make it a date.
Okay.
Things that have been going on recently. I actually just hosted my first rider retreat here at our ranch, and it was really, really great. I had 6 ladies with 7 horses for a 3-day weekend. We did lessons. We did a trail ride around the ranch. We did some goal setting, and there was a lot of time for them to relax, and I cooked for them. And we were supposed to have yoga, but you know what happens when you rely on other people to show up. But overall, it was just a super weekend. People got a lot out of their lessons, and I had everyone from, I had a trainer who's a silver medalist all the way down to adult amateur seniors riding their young horses. So it was a really great time. I enjoyed it tremendously.
That sounds wonderful. I wish you were a little bit closer.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. I living an hour and a half from anywhere, it's a very interesting life.
Well, the hour and a half wouldn't bother me, but it's the, 12 hours to get to the hour and a half?
It is about that if we were driving, yes.
Yes, that's sort of a killer.
Well, so anything new with you?
Not a whole lot. I haven't talked about my horse in a really long time, but Ralphie's doing great.
Excellent.
I'm very excited. I think the last time I talked about him, we talked about the fact that he was sort of struggling with the transition to my farm and that he was kind of spooky. And I took a couple months off and did nothing but groundwork, working on building a relationship with him and teaching him how to use his body to conquer his stress. I have a very dear friend and student named Weiling Liu, who worked with me. And on June 16th, we got on him. She got on him first, and then I got on him. And I've been riding him ever since. And, the kind of fun thing about young horses is they learn every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day there is some kind of progress. And unfortunately, there is a development that is going in on the property next door to me.
Oh, no.
There is so much noise. They are building a roadway. They are bringing in literally hundreds of dump trucks with fill. There is noise nonstop, constantly. And it is being one of the best bomb-proofing things ever. There was a moment today when I was riding Ralphie, and there was so much noise. It sounded as if an airplane was about to land on the roof of my indoor. I mean, it was that loud. And I had this moment where I froze and thought, maybe I should get off. And I checked in with him, and he was completely relaxed.
Awesome.
And on my aids and listening, because to him, he hears it all the time now.
Yeah.
So it was just wonderful. And I'm just really proud. It's been a rough road. I've never had a horse that was reactive in the way that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the really important lessons that I've learned is when they get scared, that's when you take the pressure off Because if you add pressure, like you will go into that corner, then you reinforce whatever it is they're afraid of. And if you just kind of let go and say, well, get as close as you can, and you go through the corner, but not really very well, and then you put pressure on, after a while, that corner is where there is no pressure and they want to be there.
Yeah.
So it's been really, really educational. It's made me a much better trainer, I think.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah, these things that don't kill us make us better, right?
Well, it makes me think of two things. One is something that John Lyon said a million years ago: horses startle, people spook. And the fact that you were able to recognize that your horse was calmer than you were, I mean, that's an amazing piece, because you guys are giving each other confidence. It's not just all on your shoulders. So that's just brilliant.
Yeah.
And then another old cowboy that I worked with at one point said, look for 1% improvement in your horse every day. In 90 days, you've got a brand new horse.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes just that, it seems like 1% is so minuscule, but look at what you're getting, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I said that to my husband. He came down to watch me ride Tiger. I rode Tiger after Ralphie. And
Tiger.
Oh, Tiger's so wonderful. He's doing great. But, I said to him, I have to just keep reminding myself that really, although I've had Ralphie for 6 months, I've really only been riding him for 3. And he has made so much progress. And there was, and I know a lot of our listeners can relate to this. One of the things that I really understand is fear, because I am a very fearful rider. And there were months there where I would get sick at the thought of getting on him. And, he's my horse. I have to get on him.
Right.
And, trying to make my body not let him know that I was afraid.
Yes.
And trying to make myself think I wasn't afraid. But, getting on and thinking, I'm going to ride through this. I'm going to ride through this. And I remember probably for the first month, I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. I would trot around my arena gasping for breath because I just couldn't relax enough to get air in. And I am no longer afraid, because I now know what he does, and it's nothing that I can't handle.
Right.
And he's not doing it to hurt me.
Right.
And I was brave enough today that when there was a corner that for some reason today intermittently was scary, and he would tell me, he'd, pick his neck up and get a little bit tight, and I was able to throw the reins away.
Yay.
Rather than, cranking him into a frame and putting my leg on and pushing him through it.
Hustling him around.
Yeah. I just threw the reins away and said, get as close as you can. And then we'd get through the corner, and then I'd pick up some connection and I'd say, and now big trot, or now big canter or whatever. And then we go around again, and guess what? We made it through the corner.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're using go as a source of comfort. That's amazing too, because so many people don't want to go.
Yeah. Go is scary.
Go is scary.
Go is really scary. But what's interesting, as scary as go is, so these Dutch harness horses are different than any other horse I've ever ridden. They carry their tension through their top lines in a way that I've never experienced. And it's kind of scary. And what ends up happening is that you start bouncing up and down instead of covering ground. And to me, the other day I was riding and he was doing his bouncing up and down. And I thought, you know what, Aviva, you're a trainer. You know what you're doing. And so I, quote, galloped.
Nice.
Because, he doesn't gallop. But we cantered, and we cantered, and we cantered, and we cantered, and we cantered. And then when he really didn't want to canter anymore, I let him trot, but we trotted big. And for the first time, my horse was in front of my leg. And it was such a safe feeling.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was so cool. I got off, I did what I needed to do and I got off and I texted everybody I knew.
That is amazing.
Recreating it is a little bit trickier, but at least I got there. And I know I say to a lot of my students when they ride, forward is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
You bought a horse with this big, beautiful movement. Now, enjoy it. And I understand why they don't, and I understand why they're afraid. But once you feel that power forward safely, it's a whole different thing. It's no longer that scary forward.
Well, it's finding that feel.
Yeah.
Everybody can tell you that's the feel you're looking for, but until you have encountered it on your own and lived to tell, it still feels a little daunting.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I am really happy for you. That all sounds great.
Thank you.
I would like you to take your trainer hat off now.
Okay.
And put your L grad hat on so we can do our Ask the L question.
Okay. Switching hats. I'm ready.
Switching hats. Okay, excellent. So today's question is from Nancy.
Okay.
Nancy says, I enjoy listening on my drives to the barn. So thank you, Nancy. Hopefully she'll still enjoy.
Okay.
My young pony, who is showing first level, often gets judge comments that her pole is too low. We work on this with her trainer, but I'd like to know what exactly judges are looking for with the pole and any tips on how to achieve this. Thanks.
Okay. Not having seen your pony, Nancy, I'm going to speculate the best way I can. When I use the comment pole low, that usually equates for me to one of two things. It either means that the pole is low, that your horse is broken at the second or third vertebra and is behind the vertical, which means that she's probably trying to avoid the connection and the throughness. We know that we want a horse whose nose is perpendicular or slightly in front of the vertical. We don't want one that's behind the vertical. Now, having said that, there are exceptions. Horses with big cresty poles, like the PREs, like stallions, have a tendency to give the impression of being behind the vertical somewhat, and the pole is not the highest point because of the conformation of their necks. There's a fat pad, basically. And judges need to be able to see that. So, Nancy, I don't know if your pony is like that. The other reason I would use the comment pole low, and not knowing what your scores are at first level, pole low, when you go through the training scale, and when you start at intro level, we want a horse that's stretching forward over the top line. And we do want the pole to be a little bit lower than the withers, if not level with the withers, because that shows that energy reaching. And the nose is probably going to be a little in front of the vertical. And then in training level, we want a horse whose balance is level. And if your horse's shoulders and butt are level and the energy is truly coming all the way through the neck, then the pole is going to be the highest point. The nose is going to be straight or slightly in front of the vertical. And that's a beautiful outline. At first level, we are not talking about collection. We are talking about a horse who is consistently on the bit. And this is where we run into the trouble, because on the bit is not an outline. On the bit is the hind legs connecting to the rider's hand, connecting to the bridle. And we talk about so many things in dressage, and it's so complicated and it's so complex. But we talk about recycling energy. The engine is in the hind end, and we want to bring the energy through the top line into the rider's hand and then recycle it back underneath. So if you don't have enough rein, your energy goes out the nose instead of recycling, and maybe the pole gets too low. On the other hand, if you have your reins too short and too tight and you're blocking, the energy can't recycle. It gets stuck the horse tucks its nose behind the vertical, attempting to get away from it. So how do you fix that? You're doing the first thing that you should be, which is working with a trainer. You know, your trainer hopefully knows the difference between all of these things. I would say that you, Nancy, already have a good idea of when things are correct and when things are incorrect, because you said you and your trainer are working on this. So you know when your horse tucks her nose behind the vertical or gets too low in the pole. And what she's probably doing is trying to avoid connection, or you've lost energy from the hind end. So when I am looking for that kind of balance, I remember when I first started riding in dressage, I was very lucky that I got to watch a masterclass with Rainer Klimke. And he started with a training level horse and worked his way from training first, second, third, fourth, all the way through the FEI levels. And the thing that he said consistently that has never left me was, make your horse an offer with your hand.
Oh, what a beautiful saying.
Isn't that lovely? So if your horse is behind the vertical, what I would say is make your horse an offer. You may not be able to offer both hands at the same time. I don't know. It depends. But at least make an offer of the inside hand and see where your horse's nose goes. Add a little bit of leg and make sure that the energy is coming all the way through. And if that fixes your behind the vertical or low pole, then you know what the judges are seeing and you know how to fix it. So it's kind of a hard answer, but an easy answer at the same time. The other thing to remember, Nancy, is that the judge watches you for about 5 minutes. And while judges try not to simply judge frame, that is something that is easiest to judge. And it is easier to see a frame maintaining consistency than it is to see whether a horse is truly coming through the back and on the bit. That's a little bit tough to see all the time, although it's pretty easy to feel. So what I find is that a lot of judges do end up having to judge an outline. And I have a feeling that if you're a little bit low in the pole, Nancy, you're probably getting pretty good scores overall because you're there pretty consistently. But what the judge is saying to you is, you know, if you were a little bit higher in the pole, if you were recycling your energy a little better, if you were a little bit more forward, if you were a little softer in your hands, your score would be going up even more.
Yes.
So I don't know if that helps. Because this, you know, every time I say this is a really hard question, but this one is a really hard question because
it is a hard question.
This is a training issue.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't want to say that judges can't judge, but judging is so many layers and it's not the same as teaching riding or training, and where you can dig down really deep with your trainer in a lesson. In that 5-6 minute dressage test, we can't.
It's a snapshot.
Exactly. It's your horse seems to be going nicely forward. Your horse seems to be fairly, you know, balanced. Your horse seems to be fairly supple. You know, I don't see the bit pulling backwards out of her mouth, but her pole is lower than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, all things being equal, what I try to do when I judge is I try to say 2 things for every movement. And one is something that I really like that you're doing, you know, active. I love being able to say active, good energy, supple, correct bend, nicely in front of the leg, prompt. You know, those are all the positives. But then I want to say what I call the fatal flaw. What is the thing that I see that strikes me the most as what you need to make better to get a higher score? So I may see a beautiful 20-meter circle. It's active, it's balanced, it's covering ground, but the horse is counterbent. So, you know, the fatal flaw, it's a circle. You're supposed to be flexed to the inside, but you're going beautifully forward. and your horse is balanced back to front, and your horse is nicely coming over the top line, and everything is good. So I will say nicely forward and balanced, but counterflexed. So I might give that a 6.0 because you're making the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing a lot of what the circle requires. I can tell what you're doing, but it's not a 7. It's not an 8.
Right.
Because you're missing one of the key components of that movement, which is the bend.
Right.
But when you get the same comment over and over and over again in a test,
mm-hmm.
over and over and over again from show to show, it gives you a pretty strong piece of feedback that there is something that you are consistently failing to achieve that would give you higher scores.
There you go.
So that's my really, really long answer.
Well, that's okay. It's an in-depth, multifaceted question, and I think you covered a lot of possibilities for them to take a look at. So thank you for that. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful. We are going to take a break before we go to our interview. I'm really excited that my first interview, Aviva, with you is going to be interviewing our new Grand Prix national champion from the Festival of Champions that just took place in August, Amy Bradley Swerdlin. So you can look forward to that in just a moment. But first, we're going to have a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor for today's podcast is Purina. Confidently address your horse's unique weight needs and help optimize their overall well-being with research-proven Purina animal nutrition feeds designed by passionate equine nutritionists. Partner with Purina to nourish your horse to their optimal body condition. Explore weight management resources for your horse today at purinamills.com/feed-finder. Thank you so much, Amy Bradley Swerdlin, for joining us today on the Dressage Today podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We are welcoming you. And of course, my trusty cohort, Aviva, is here with us. So let's get to our questions. You just got back to Florida. Is that correct?
I'm actually still in Kentucky for a couple more weeks and then heading back at the end of the month.
Okay. So enjoying the last little bit of nice weather before you come back here.
It's been beautiful here. I'm so fortunate to be able to have spent a couple months up here for the summer. Wonderful. Yeah, it's great.
Wonderful. So tell us about Festival of Champions. You are our 2024 Grand Prix National Champion. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, Festival it's such a special show. And I've been there before with an I2 horse for the Developing Grand Prix. And it's just, I grew up in the Chicago area. So I had when I started with dressage, I began showing at Lamplight. And the facility itself is just great. The footing's amazing. I mean, I don't want to date myself by telling you how long ago I was showing at Lamplight. The footing's great. They've made so many improvements. It's just such a beautiful facility. And it just feels really special to be there. So to be able to go, to even get an invite is like a real honor, I think. And to be able to have gone this year and have 3 horses qualified, which was great. It was just a wonderful time. And especially with 2 of the horses being homebreds. So that meant a lot to me.
How does one get to go to festival? You said that there was an invite. Can you explain that to our listeners?
Sure. So there's like a whole qualifying process that you have to go through, and you can find all that on the USDF website. And there's specific shows that you can get these qualifying scores at. And then once you meet all the criteria as far as the scoring and writing the certain tests that they need you to do, you'll get ranked. And then they invite the top 15 horses that are ranked to festival.
So that's from all over the country.
That is quite an honor. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, from all over the country. So, wow. And sometimes, and actually one of my horses, I got a I was an alternate for, but there was some people that ended up not going. Sometimes, if they're really remote, they end up deciding not to travel, but they just still want the accolade of being, able to be invited. So I was able to throw him on the trailer too at the last minute. So that was really great.
So 2 of the horses that you took to festival are homebreds.
Correct. Yep. The one that I did the Grand Prix on, Quiliuete, he is a homebred and then also fellowship, but we call him Freddie. But he did the Developing Prix St. George.
Wow. And who was the third horse?
I Spy. It was a horse I bought as a 3-week-old foal. I saw him on a foal video and I fell in love with him because he was the cutest thing. Everyone says, "Oh, my foal is so cute." But no, he was the cutest little foal. And he's got the most unique white markings. He's got a big spot on his hip and then a huge diamond shape on the other side on his barrel and 4 white socks and a big blaze. And I just thought he was just so adorable. I just had to buy him. And I figured, well, if it doesn't work out, then he's got so many cool markings. Someone's going to like him, so I could probably sell him. But he was a nice moving foal too. So, that doesn't hurt. So
what started you wanting to breed your own horses?
Well, it's always something that I had interest in, and I always was interested in the up and coming stallions and the different bloodlines and things like that. And I have a really close friend named Holly Simonson, who is very involved with the Oldenburg Verband. She would fill me in on stuff. We'd go out to lunch or have dinner, and all we would do is talk about breeding and different stallions and what their crosses are. So she really kind of got me hooked on that. And, at the time being married to a vet, I had that at my disposal. So I was able to, do it on more of a budget.
How many horses have you bred over the years?
Oh, wow. I'm not really sure the exact number.
Amy, that's bad.
I know. As a breeder, and I can say, we've bred some didn't make it. It's not an easy job. You always see in the spring, everyone showing all their posts on Facebook or Instagram of their perfect foals that are healthy. And I'm telling you right now, it's not so easy. There's a lot of heartbreak involved in it. And, so you really have to give hats off to the big breeders too, because sometimes things just go wrong and it's so difficult. You wait so long for this foal to come out and, you have problems with the legs or they're not healthy or, they don't even make it to term. And it's just, it's just not an easy thing. But so like many other breeders, I've had some that haven't made it, and I have some that never carried to term, and you're lucky to get them on the ground healthy. And then on top of that, if you get one that's a decent mover, then you're really lucky and easily trained, then you can add another plus to that. But, so it's just, it's not an easy process. I'd say I probably bred about 12 or so. The only ones that I have right now that I bred are just Fellowship and Quill. And I do have a mare that's on the West Coast that I bred that's doing small tour. I have another one on the up, I think in the New York area that I bred that's doing the Grand Prix. And I'm trying to think, I have a couple other here and there that are just nice pleasure horses. One ended up being a hunter. So, they're all over.
You're pretty successful, though. Your horses are really making it. That's quite a testament to you.
Yeah, no, they've been really good. And, a lot of times I would bring them along and, train them for a few years and then sell them as a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. So, yeah, that was kind of fun to do for a while, but it's a lot of work. So now I'm trying to downsize a little bit, kind of changing my goals and my path a little bit for the future. So probably no more breeding for me.
Well, tell us a little bit about Quill. You've won regional championships with him every single level so far, haven't you? All the way up to Grand Prix.
Yeah, I showed him. I started him at training level and showed him through all the levels. I think at one point, I skipped the I1 and I2, and I just took him from the Prix St. George to the Grand Prix. He's been a bit of a challenge not to train, but health-wise. He's had a lot of health issues, severe allergies, really bad splints. He got laminitis in 2020 and was out for a whole year for that. His hocks were fusing, and that's what kind of caused it. He had an underlying metabolic issue. And so when he had all that pain from the hocks fusing, it kind of triggered some things in his body. And when we were medically trying to help him, he ended up foundering. And so he was literally in wooden clogs for 6 months. I didn't ride him for a year. It was like really kind of eye-opening in a way, because you always think about the horses being fragile, but when it really happens to you, you're like, wow, it's incredible. So we had actually just gotten back from regional championships, and it was in 2020, and that was his first year at the Grand Prix. And we were riding high, so happy, he did so well. And then 2 weeks later he foundered, and I was just like thinking, oh, I'm so excited for season coming up, and now I'm like, gosh, I hope he survives and he can be pasture sound. That you go from one extreme to the other, and it's really quite devastating. I mean, fortunately, he was one of the lucky few that actually made it out of there with minimal rotation. And while he was laying up for the laminitis, we were able to get his hocks fully fused, so then he doesn't have any pain from that anymore either. So it's just, he's been a mess. And then we were bringing him back after the laminitis, and I noticed a big lump on his neck, and he ended up having like half of a baseball-sized tumor in his pole that had to be surgically removed.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he's been like heartbreak after heartbreak, but he's my baby. So I love him so much, and he tries so hard. I think, he's the work ethic that he has is amazing. I really think he does it for me. He just we have a special bond. I was there when he foaled out, and, we've been together. So he really trusts me, and, we just have a special connection.
It's definitely a testament to you as his rider and his trainer that while you have moved him through the levels, having had these kind of setbacks, you kept going. So many people, I think, have something like that happen, and that's it. Like, that is the pinnacle of the horse's career. So it's got to make it even that much more special that you and he were the champion at Lamplight.
Absolutely. I mean, I still can't believe it actually happened, but yeah, I mean, it's been such a rough, bumpy road. And of course, getting any horse to the Grand Prix is not a simple process. I mean, it's a difficult, it takes a long time. Some horses learn things more quickly than others. Fortunately, he's very smart. And it's really funny because we always say that he read the book already. He just kind of figured everything out, pretty uncomplicated. So I can't even really say that it's me because he's pretty smart. He's just a really good boy. So, but it helps having that bond with him for sure.
Well,
That's
but you're
great.
also a very, very successful rider and trainer. Who do you work with? Who do you credit with as your mentors and the people who have brought you up through the levels like this?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few people that I have worked with, and you take things from everyone, that you work with to kind of develop your own methodology and way you feel like you want to train. And I mean, like, some people have trained me to be a really good horsewoman in the barn and really being able to manage my horses properly. And I've been managing my own horses for 20 years. I used to be at a boarding facility, but now I'd always myself the last 20 years. So, you really learn how to figure things out before bad things happen, and just you become really in tune with your horses. And then there's other trainers that I've learned a lot riding from. Juan Matuda was one of them. I worked with him for several years, but most recently Jan Brons. I think I've been working with him for probably 8 or 9 years now, and still working with him. He's a great coach. The thing I love about Jan is he's kind of he's not one of those trainers that wants to get on your horse and fix things for you or do anything like that. He's kind of like, it's your horse, you ride it. I can tell you from the ground, but you got to figure it out yourself. And that's, how you become a better rider. So he's been really instrumental, especially the past few years with the success that I've had, because he's just, and he will kick me out of my comfort zone like so quickly. He's like, okay, time to move up. You got to do this now. You got to do that. I'm like, I'm not ready. And he's like, nope, you're doing it. Yeah, he will drag me kicking and screaming into things I don't want to do. But usually afterwards, I'm really happy that I've done it. So,
On that note, do you get show nerves?
I used to, as a child, when I'd show, I did pony club as a kid, and I would have the most horrible show nerves. And I think now, of course, like if it's a big class and if I'm showing a global and it's like the freestyles on Friday nights or something, of course you're going to get like some butterflies and stuff. But I don't really get the quintessential show nerves like I used to when I was younger. I think just because I've been doing it for so long now and on so many horses. And I think too, when you're really confident in your training program and the way you train your horses every day, you just go to the show. It's like any other day. You stick with your program. You don't change anything. You just, go in and, it is what it is. Once you go down center line and you go into that ring, you do the best you can at that moment. And of course, things are going to come up and you just can't beat yourself up about it. You have to take every time in the ring as a learning opportunity. And, there's times in the ring where my horse will buck or do something and I just kind of start laughing in the middle of the test because, they're horses. You can't put that much stressful pressure on yourself. You can just set them up the best you can set them up. And then you go in there and you just, you hope for the best at that moment. And usually if you're really consistent, I think with your riding and your methodology with the horses and they know what's expected of them, things are going to go okay. And I think too, you just can't beat yourself up too much, especially if you're moving up to a new level or you're on a new horse. There's going to be a big learning curve and you just got to take every opportunity as a way to improve the way you're riding and training. And it's a good assessment of your training showing, you get great feedback from the judges. So
sure,
always tell you where you need to go in the future with what you need to work on.
Is there any particular level or is there any particular movement that's your favorite?
Well, I don't know that there's anything in particular that's my favorite. But, now that I brought so many horses up the levels, at this point, I think I have different exercises I can use to get to a certain point with the different horses. And every horse is going to learn a little differently, just like people learn differently. And so, you can kind of cater these exercises to accommodate the specific goals that you want with these horses. But yeah, I don't know that I particularly have a favorite to do, but I think just like the daily work for me, is the most rewarding, is what I enjoy the most, and not so much the showing, but I do like to show, but the daily process for me is the most fun.
The journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the relationship.
Excellent. You mentioned doing Friday Night Lights at Global. If you had a choice, do you prefer the regular classes or do you like the musical freestyle classes? Which is your favorite, or does that also go from horse to horse?
Yeah, there's some horses I don't do freestyles with. But yeah, like with the horses that I'm really comfortable with, I do like doing the freestyles, and I did my first Friday night class last year at Global with Quill. And so that's the one time I was really, really nervous. I don't think I slept very well that whole week leading up to that show, because it was like, that's like a big step. I'm usually in like the amateur division, and then now I'm in a CDI and I'm going to compete under the lights and everyone's going to be there. And, but once I went in and he like really puffed up and he loved it and it was so much fun. It would be one of the most memorable times in my entire life. Was the first time I went and did that, which was really great. So now I can't wait to do it again. I have new freestyle music that I just did. I got the music on Thursday and I said, hey, what the heck? I'm just going to ride it at regionals. Cause that's me. Why not? Just do it. That's kind of like me, it's just by the seat of my pants sometimes. But so I wrote the new music. He was kind of like, I don't know what this Imagine Dragons is. I'm used to Simple Minds starting my freestyle. I don't know what all these drums are, but I'm going to kind of go with it. But yeah, he was a little bit of shock and awe there, but it was fun.
How did you pick your music?
I'm just kind of obsessed about it, actually. I love putting together freestyles and I love helping people pick music for freestyles. So I actually have a running list of probably 100 different songs on my phone. And at home, we will ride to satellite radio and stuff. And every time there's a song that comes, this would work for trot, or, this would work for canter, I take my phone out and I add it to the list. So then, when people are like, can you help me with a freestyle and help me pick out music, I can just kind of go to the list. And of course, you have to make sure it suits the horse and everything. You want, for like a lighter horse, you want like lighter, you don't want anything too heavy, but yeah, I really enjoy doing it. So it's just kind of something I like to do on the side. I mean, it's not like I process the music or anything. I have a great guy that does that for me, but I kind of know in my head exactly what I want, and I can dictate that to him, and he does a great job. So it's really fun to put those pieces together.
That's great. That really is. To be able to add the art into the science and the sport all together is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's really fun because I was actually an art major. I used to be a teacher. So I kind of like the whole artistic realm within dressage and of course the freestyles too. It's fun.
Now, another side of your horse life is what you do with USDF.
Yes. So I volunteer a lot of time to USDF, and I really enjoy working behind the scenes. So like currently I'm the chair for the awards committee, and I have a great group of people that we work with, just, maintaining the awards, coming up with new awards, making sure things are clear in the member guide, things like that. And most recently, I've been added to the judges committee, and now I'm on the test writing committee for the next test cycle that comes out in a couple years. And I'm also on the rules advisory working committee or working group. So I'm on that now too.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then, I try to do stuff with a region, like the regional championship site selection committee and things like that. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything else, but I think that pretty much sums it up. And now I'm also a delegate as Stephany is as well for a convention for Region 3. So.
Now, have you competed at any of the Region 3 adult amateur competitions that they've held so far?
The newer ones that they have in Northern Florida?
Yes. I didn't know if that timing coincided for you or not.
I haven't competed in that because I figured my goal was more for regionals and then maybe going on to finals. So I kind of feel like sometimes I feel like that program is a great program, especially catering to like grassroots and other competitors that were trying to get more involved in the sport that maybe aren't quite ready to go to regionals yet, or maybe a little intimidated to go to regionals. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a really good stepping stone. I usually sponsor a class or two because I think it's a really important avenue for people to go to. But I have not competed at it, no. But hopefully I can judge at it one day. That'd be really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Aviva, what other questions do you have for Amy?
I don't know. I'm just so impressed and overwhelmed at all that you've achieved.
Oh, you're so kind. You're so kind.
When did you start riding? You said you rode in Pony Club. How old were you?
Yeah, so I started riding when I was in third grade. My parents said that if I got really good grades, I could start taking lessons once a week. So
wow.
I started doing that, and it was, we just did Pony Club. I think at this point it was probably an old polo pony that I had. Who knows where she came from, but yeah, we just, it was like one of those fun things as a kid. You're just kind of riding around and doing kid things with horses, and it was really fun. And I didn't ride so much in high school or college, but then got back into it after I got out of school.
And went into just the straight dressage because I know Pony Club does all the things.
Yes. Yeah. I always preferred the dressage, mostly probably because I got dumped all the time on the cross country course because my horse did not like to jump. So it's just like I got really good at like hanging on outside of the penalty markers and then jumping back on and then like going to it was like, so maybe it's like a little PTSD from the jumping. I'm not sure.
I'm wondering what percentage of the dressage population might have that same exact story.
Yeah,
about how we all got to dressage.
Probably. I know, right?
Oh, that's so funny. Well, Amy, what's next for you? As our final question for the day, what's next for you competition-wise and training-wise and horse-wise? Are we going to see any new horses this season?
Well, I'm just going to continue on with the 4 that I have right now. And I just got back, like I said yesterday, from regionals here in Kentucky. And it's actually my last regionals that I'm going to compete as an amateur. I'm going to drop my amateur status and hopefully in the near future open up my own training business. And
Congratulations.
I'm also, thank you. Yeah, I think it's time. The amateur division's been amazing for me, but there also comes to a point where you're kind of like, well, maybe it's time to move on, and I'm there, and I have to say to other amateurs out there too. I mean, I've had horrible rides. I'm a member of the 40s club, and I'll tell anybody right out there that yes, I have gotten a 40% in a ride before. It's just about your attitude and really pulling yourself up after those bad rides and like really breaking it down and trying to figure out how you can work to improve these different areas so that you can start to grow as a rider and help your horse grow with its training. And it's taken me a long time. Like recently I've been very successful, but I've been there with everybody else where I have not been successful too. So, and I think one of the big eye-opening experiences for me was when I started in the L program. And, I think, and that's available for anybody that wants to go. Anyone can audit the L program. I mean, even if you don't want to become a judge. But I tell you what, that program itself was eye-opening for me when you really figure out how a judge comes to give the scores that they give, what is expected at the different levels, what you're looking for in a horse, that to compete. And I think there's so much confusion out there, and people get so down on themselves, but because they don't understand. They really just don't understand. I mean, I never really knew what engagement was. I never really knew, the different methodology to come up with a score. And what the criteria was in a movement. I didn't really know. You look at your test sheet, but I mean, how many people really read the directives on the test sheet? And how many people really truly understand what a lot of these words mean? Vocabulary wise,
she's like singing my song here. You realize that, right?
I mean, there's just so much confusion, but all of this is available. A lot of it is available even when you look up in the rule book. There's so many things that you can just read through, like what a leg yield is, what a shoulder in is, what they're looking for, and people don't even look in that to even help themselves.
I audited the part of the L program that you can audit. And I agree with you, it was very eye-opening. And then, as you know, Aviva is an L grad with distinction.
Fantastic.
And she clears up a lot of misunderstandings for people with this podcast, with questions that people send in. So it is a really valuable resource, along with things like the USDF university classes.
Absolutely.
So many opportunities for people out there. You just have to, I will say that when I started riding dressage, and unlike you, Amy, I didn't start when I was a little one. I started when I was 32.
Yeah.
And, I read all the stuff and, lightness and self-carriage and core. And, I thought, yeah, that's for the real riders. That's not me. And over time, I learned that, that could be me. And I think that, people just need to believe in themselves and push and set those high goals, not say my goal is to maybe one day ride first level at a schooling show. Everybody's goal is to move as far as they can and to keep learning and to keep improving. And when you set that as your goal rather than limiting,
absolutely.
You can become the champion at festival at Grand Prix.
you never say never.
Exactly.
You never say never, and never give up, and just keep trying. Take everything as a learning experience.
Yep.
That's what you have to do.
I'm also a member of the 40s club, so I'm with you there too.
We have
we're not alone.
No, we have all been part of the 40s club.
Yes.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed talking with you. And especially coming right back from a horse show. We know that first day is kind of like having a hangover.
Yeah.
So we look forward to seeing you out at the shows this year.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks for
And
the
congratulations on starting a training business. You are inspiring. And I know if you were local.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.